Coverage of the UN climate talks. Really pleased to have been joined by Ciaran Cuffe, who is Minister for the Environment in Ireland. And Ciaran is going to give us a bit of an insight into some of the activities that Ireland is up to and also what's been happening at these talks, I hope.
Well, I'll try and do that. I'm Minister of State at the Department of the Environment with responsibility for climate change. So, look, it's good that there is discussions ongoing in Cancun. There's a dangerous tendency to compare it to Copenhagen from last year, where we hoped that we would get that great global deal. But at least the level of expectation was set very low for Cancun, and anything that comes out of it that's a positive, I think, will be welcomed. I think we've learned from Copenhagen that we can't look for a globally binding deal within a couple of days, but what we do want to try and do is set Durban as a destination and work backwards from that to what we can achieve today.
And what are Ireland's interests here? Why is Ireland here?
Well, we're here to try and move towards a binding global deal on climate change. As a member of the Green Party and coming from a government where the Green Party is represented, obviously we really want to get a strong deal, and we're very supportive of the European Union's position to push for a 30% step up by 2020. I think that would send all the right signals to the rest of the world. But we don't simply pull back and say let the EU do it or let other governments make this deal happen. We're also simultaneously working at home on a lot of policy initiatives that I think will help deliver real action on climate change. We're putting together a climate change legislation, and that'll mandate year-on-year reductions up to the year 2020 and beyond. And essentially there'll be a scientific committee that will have oversight of the reductions and will suggest where those reductions should happen. In other words, should they happen in transport, in agriculture, in construction, they will give strong advice on that. And I think that's a practical step. But at the same time, we have some good news stories from Ireland. We've just ramped up our renewable energy from 7% up to 15% in the last few years. So 15% of the electricity in Ireland is now coming from renewables. That's mostly wind energy, some biomass, but that's a really good news story. We've changed taxation as well to encourage greener cars, to make public transport work better. There's some good stuff happening there.
And in an interview with Mary Robinson earlier this week, she said she was really pleased about your commitment to climate finance here at these talks. What steps have you taken to support climate finance here?
Well, just 2 days ago we agreed at government to put 23 million euro into the Fast Start finance. That's a strong commitment for 2010, even though we want to commit 100 million over 3 years. And despite the really challenging economic times in Ireland, we've managed to squeeze 23 million euro out of the coffers into Fast Start finance. I think that's a good news story for the developing world. We want to see as much of that as we can go into adaptation, and I think we can really work well, probably through Irish Aid, through our organisation that provides assistance to developing countries. Hopefully we can build on the work we're doing there and provide that Fast Start finance directly into helping countries within a matter of months.
And you mentioned the role of the EU in these talks, and I just wanted an insight. How is policy kind of arranged between these different countries with such diverse interests and such diverse economic situations? How does that work here?
It's really interesting. I mean, we're in the conference centre here, but outside us there's the tennis courts from the hotel, and in the middle of the tennis courts there's a big white tent being buffeted by the breeze. But if you go inside that tent, you have a long rectangular table with the 27 member states sitting around there, and they're all united in trying to move climate change forward. Of course, there's a variety of opinions within those member states, and there's all kinds of blocs and alliances, but what the Climate Change Commissioner Connie Hedegaard has succeeded in doing is getting us all to speak with one voice, and I think that's so important. And you can see the passion both coming from the Flemish presidency but also from the Climate Change Commissioner to help bridge that gap between the G77 and countries like Russia and China and the US to try and get us all to move forward. And I mean, the emotional content of that is just so powerful. I mean, Connie has such conviction on the issue, and I'm very heartened as a Green Party member of the party that's in government. I'm very heartened by the work to move things forward at a very practical level, whether it be on RED Plus or LULUCF. I can see us all working together to make the negotiations succeed.
And the EU is coming in for a little bit of criticism, both in Copenhagen and here, for a lack of leadership. People were really hoping that they'd kind of up their targets and kind of lead the way and maybe set an example for other countries. Why do you think that hasn't happened?
Well, I think Europe is leading. I mean, if you look at, for instance, development aid, Europe is head and shoulders above the rest of the world. I think when it comes to stepping up to a 30% target, we're saying the European Union is prepared to do that. So I think there's no lack of leadership at the European Union level. I think what did happen at Copenhagen was we set the bar too high in what we thought we could achieve. So I think we're all a bit humbled by that. But nonetheless, we still want to be ambitious. We want to move ahead with targets. But I think we have to do a lot of listening as well as leading. And that's where the real diplomacy comes into play. I think it was the Swedish minister who said yesterday at the plenary that we all have very strong ideas that we want to see delivered. We're all going to have to compromise on that. That's the only way you make a deal happen. And I guess what I see around that rectangular table in the European tent out there on the tennis court is a commitment to get progress and to work with whatever countries we need to work with to move things forward.
And people are saying these talks are going to go on to the early hours of the morning. Have you got any kind of guesses or any insights as to what you think the headlines are going to be tomorrow and where we're going to end up?
I really don't know. Look, I'm a newbie. I've only been to, this is my third COP, so I look to the old hands who nod sagely and say this will go on till 4 o'clock in the morning. I really don't know, but I think there's a huge commitment coming from Ireland and from Europe to do whatever it takes to try and get real progress on the issue.
Thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been great to have your insights.
Thank you.